Howdy folks, Dave Yauk here with 5-year-old quarter horse Miss Fable, or I call her Faye for short. Um, and just a quick little picture over at some barrels over there because I'm going to talk about those briefly. Set up the camera here. Miss Faye came in to be started under saddle, but she goes in the category of special, not just a regular horse to start, because she's got some issues. And we don't always know what causes the issues. A lot of times it's got to do with people. The only thing I really know about her history, I don't know who bred her or under what conditions, but the current owner bought her at a sale, and she was shown in saddle with somebody on her back. Um, I suspect that the horse was drugged at the time because she doesn't want to accept tack and people on her back graciously. So I've had tack on her when horses first come. I go in the round pen with them, and I've got three primary goals while we're doing things. And one is to establish a relationship of teacher student. You could also say master servant or God, not God. There's a lot of ways to discuss that relationship, but what I want it to be is this is the decision maker and this is the doer. Um, so at least that's how I think of it. You can think of it any way you want. So usually once I've got the relationship, establish a common language, and teach the horse to learn, I tack them up at liberty with nothing on their face, no halter, no nothing. I put a saddle on them, and I work with them, put the bridle on, do some bridle work, and then I get on the horse for the first time. And then I'm usually done with that first training session. I was able to get the saddle on her at liberty, and she immediately blew up before I even got the breast collar and the F cinch on. And she goes kind of rigid, catatonic, and jumps around a lot. And I don't usually let a horse just jump around and get the buck out. To me, that's like letting a horse bite you until they're tired of biting you. Bucking is dangerous behavior. I never want to see that around humans. So I discuss the situation with them and ask them to stop bucking. Anyhow, so then we had 11 days of rain and mud. Anyhow, so where we're at now, in the paddock, she'll walk up to me. I can pet her. I can love her, at liberty with nothing on her face. Put her head on my shoulders and kiss her and all that stuff. She's really sweet in the paddock. When I bring her down here and turn her loose in the round pen, she doesn't even want me to touch her. She walks away from me. She doesn't want me anywhere near her. Now, the reason why she's like this kind of doesn't matter. She's presenting herself, and I need to teach the person that's presenting themselves to me as they are now. And the past, I won't say it's irrelevant. It is helpful to understand the past. At first I thought that she was manhandled is a good word to say, handled roughly by people, and maybe even a man, who knows. If her first experience with tack was at that sale, and they drugged her, tied her up, put saddle on her with her in a fog, and then got on her, and when she came out of that fog, she probably, it's kind of like date rape drug or something. You probably aren't going to really feel good about the whole experience afterwards. So, that's one thought. But as I was working with her 2 days ago, a thought came to me as I was leading her down here. It's also possible the opposite has occurred. And that is, and I see this quite a bit, a horse that's been brought up poorly imprinted. A lot of people haven't actually read Dr. Robert Miller's book on imprinting the baby horse, the foal, and so they think they know what imprinting is, but they do a really poor job of it. And that's a critical time. You'd have to read his book to understand what it's all about. It's actually physiology and psychology. But so And then, after imprinting poorly, she may have been babied a lot. And everybody's quiet around her, and there's no stress, there's no anxiety, there's no pushing the limits on her, such that she wasn't exposed to anxiety and stress, and so that she could learn how to do it. She also, it appears, wasn't well socialized by people or horses. Although since then she has been turned out with a good herd that has done socialization with her. But whatever. I mean, so those are a bunch of thoughts jumbling around in my head. But again, I have to go back and find a way to teach a horse as they are now. Oh, she's also, I do have some videos out there you can take a look at on her, on a couple of times I've worked with her down here. She gets aggressive with me when I simply ask her to go around in the round pen with my lariat. She can look at me and pin her ears. She can, from a distance, strike at me with her front feet. She hasn't really kicked at me per se with her back feet, but she's pinned her ears and attacked like she was going to come at me with her teeth. And you can look at those videos. So that's a really interesting response to assertive but not aggressive behavior. I don't do aggressive behavior. But she's perceiving it as aggression, and she's defending herself. Her behavior is very much aggressively defensive. And in my view, I'm not presenting that to her. I've worked thousands of horses. I don't do aggression. But it's all in the eyes of the beholder, isn't it? She views it as aggression, so she's aggressively defending herself. And that's what I mean. Her background is not a normal horse, but we have to deal with who she is, not a normal horse. And that's always my approach. Is you can talk about techniques and methods and toolboxes and all that kind of stuff, but my job is to go into her brain, her mind, and teach her things, who I'm presented with. And the challenge to me is to figure out what she needs from me to learn and to be the best horse she can be. And then I have to go in here and figure out how I can give her what she needs from me so she can be the best. So the challenge really is in here. We get all so focused on our horse, and our task as humans, you have problems with horses because they're inside their own head taking care of themselves, taking care of their own needs. We got a lot of people on this planet like that, only concerned about inside themselves, not thinking about other people. So if you can get the horse out of their head asking the question, what does Mr. David want me to do right now? First of all, it turns off the emotions. When you have very strong anxiety and stress, your decisions aren't always very good decisions. It's so much better a decision-making skill when you can shut down your emotions, consider the factors, weigh the factors, and come to a conclusion. So that's what I want a horse to do, is to become calm, thoughtful, relaxed. Think about a problem, solve the problem. The problem is I want you to go there with your feet, and you can't do that right now. Well, take me there. Solve the problem. That's how I look at it. So I'm going to just show you a couple things, and I showed you the barrels early because one of the things you should always do with your horse is go around your farm doing chores, which means step 1, go outside. Step 2, collect your horse in hand. Step 3, go do chores. Whatever it is you're going to do out there, prepare yourself and prepare your environment so you can go retrieve your horse and do things with your horse. If I have to go in my garage and the garage door is closed, I'm going to take my horse with me. They can watch me open the garage door from the little remote outside, and they can stand there while the door goes up, and I'll go in the garage with them and get whatever I need to do and come out with them. Everything you do with your horse exposes them to things that they can look at, smell, feel, touch, interact with, experience, to expand their experience horizons to make them better individuals. So what I did with this, I had those barrels in there for teaching a horse to jump over barrels anyhow. So we pushed every one of those barrels out, her and I together, out of the round pen over to where they are, rolled them on the ground. And the first one was a little hard for her. The sixth one, she didn't care at all. It was easy. So if you got to go dig a hole with a fence post hole, Do your work with your horse there in hand. Their job is to be invisible. Chores with your horse. Makes for excellent horses. That's one of my theories, at least. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you. I'm going to go ahead and take her in here. Now, I've already done this. I had her in there while I was doing a couple of things. So she might not quite be as bad as she was. But once I turned her loose, I left her halter on in the lead line, so it wouldn't take me an hour to actually catch her again. Okay, so I'm going to throw this lead line over her back and turn her loose. And you can see she's not aggressive. She's not, she's very gentle and sweet most of the time. She doesn't normally like to follow me around, even when I ask her to. So I'm trying to establish this relationship. She's very resistant to relationships with human in here. Again, in the paddock, she'll walk right up to me, whether I have food or not. She'll walk up to me. She comes down from the top of the fence line, comes down to greet me at the gate, wants me to pet her, all that kind of stuff. But as soon as I come in here, there's a problem. I don't think that's natural. I think that's been taught by people. So one of the problems as a trainer is you get presented with a horse that already knows things, but things they shouldn't know. And they're not going to forget that. So sometimes when a horse has a problem, you're not teaching them new things. You're asking them to forget something they already know. That's not training. And it takes a lot of skill from the trainer. And isn't all, a horse forgets nothing. So you're asking them to, I know how the past was. It's a new day. We're going to pretend that never happened. Forget about it. And they have to pretend to forget about it. But every once in a while, it's going to spontaneously pop in their head and they're going to remember the past. That's just how things are, It depends on how bad it was. So right there, that was pretty nice, where she turned and faced me. So I'm going to go ahead and drop all my energy and see if I can walk up to her and greet her. I'm not going to walk straight toward her face, kind of heading off to the side here. I'm going to offer my hand. Okay, that was very nice. Usually, every time before this, as I did that, she would walk away before I got to her. And the way her head is turned right there, as her head turns left and right, she is clearing the space to decide which way she's going to lead. As she's standing here, she's thinking about leaving me. And she's just trying to decide which would be the best way to go. But because I did nothing and my energy's down, she licked and chewed and let go of some of her anxiety, which decreases her thought about leaving. But she's still looking around, thinking about leaving. Horses learn when you quit, not when they're doing. So if you watch my videos, you're going to see I spend a lot of time doing nothing. While I'm doing nothing, I'm offering them peace, which is passive leadership. It's the most powerful thing you have as a human being to offer a horse is peace. You have to teach them what peace is, because it's, as a prey animal, the concept doesn't exist in their world. So we teach them what peace is, and then we give it to them, and then they seek it. And we make it always available to the horse. Unless we want something, we briefly take away the peace. We call that an aid to communication, a cue. You disturb the peace, but while you're presenting that cue, you're also offering a return to peace. All they have to do is ask themselves, what's Mr. David want me to do? Try to do it. They're going to get peace. They'll get peace from just the try. Okay, so this is good. I want her to change how she feels in this round pen with me. I want her to try to learn things. She definitely does, she's one of the most learning resistant horses I've met. I like to teach horses to learn, to set them up for success for their life. Good. Will you come with me? Thank you. Okay, so this is new and different today. And she stopped right away. She took 2 steps. If I was a little smarter and faster, when she took those first 2 steps, I would have stopped before she did. But I do have a goal in mind, and that is I want to brush her. I want to put some tack on her today. And so what I've been thinking is 998 horses out of 1,000. I start at liberty, which means there's no halter on the horse. I groom them and tack them completely unrestrained. And the reason is they show you how they feel with their feet. And before I get on the horse, I don't want the horse feeling defensive about me or the tack they're wearing or about anything. I want them calm, relaxed, and thoughtful. If they're defensive, they're going to do goofy things like buck. I don't get on horses that I think are going to buck. A bucking horse is raw emotional defensiveness. There's no brain there. How can they learn from the experience if there's no brain? Well, they can learn helplessness from that, getting the buck out, and that's not something I want my partner to learn. I don't want my partner to be helpless. Just the opposite. Full partner, I want them to be helpful to me in doing our job together, regardless of what that job is. You know, nowadays, most of us have horses for pleasure, but their job in that case is to serve your needs and provide you with pleasure. So even if you don't have a real job for them, so to speak, of doing a specific kind of equestrian activity, whether it's working with cows or doing arena work, reining or dressage or jumping or just, looking pretty in a ring as they go around in circles. Those are all different jobs. Anyhow, I'm probably talking too much. Sorry about that. But I might as well talk while I'm doing things. I'm not going to do a real thorough job. Yeah, so I have this theory that says if a horse presents their forehead to you like she just did, I'm back here working, and that forehead comes around. Anytime that forehead comes around, try to pet the forehead. And the reason is, when the horse brings its head around, they're doing the one single most important thing you could ever want that horse to do, and that's think about you. They're outside of their own head. When I'm back here and she turns her head to come back here to me, she's outside of her own head talking to me, or talking at me, as the case may be. So when you can, whether you're on the ground or in the saddle, if that head comes around to present itself to you for whatever reason, even if the ears are pinned, even if they're biting your toe, you're up in the saddle, horse reaches around to bite your toe, pet their forehead. Pretty soon they're reaching around not to bite your toe, but to get their forehead petted. What a good idea. Of course, there's a good chance if they're reaching around to bite your toe, they're trying to tell you something. It's usually they're not comfortable at that time for whatever reason. Saddle doesn't fit. That's a good reason. Girth is too tight. That's a good reason. Bridle is too tight. That's a good reason. They're uncomfortable somewhere in their body. But either way, if they present their forehead, pet their forehead. Stop what you're doing. It's a priority. Change your horse that way. Change the way they think about you. Change what they're feeling inside. Okay, so this is very, very good. Well, I'm just brushing her and grooming her. She should like this. And her current owner does plenty of this with her, has done lots of things with her. She, like I said, she's really good, standard leading and ground handling and everything. We put shoes on her with a farrier. She stood nicely for that, didn't give farrier any problems at all. So she knows what manners are supposed to be, knows what human expectations are for her, and is willing to comply. So a lot of the rest of this for me is just discovery and mystery. As I begin to try and teach her, I'm going to discover who she is and then figure out what she needs from me. Well, come with me. I don't have to walk as far. Thank you. Okay, so that time I just took 2 steps and dropped my energy. And that's an alert on my horses. She's telling me right there that they are definitely more important than I am. See if I can call her back to me. Nope. Hey, kids. Every time she gives me what I want, which is right now just her attention, I'm going to give her a release by stepping away. Okay, that's good. Oh, the owner told me she hates fly spray. Always has, even after a year and a half or whatever. You coming with me? Good. Okay, so that was momentous. My horses are coming out of the forest over here. That's who she's looking at. And she actually took 2 steps and licked and chewed with me. So we are getting somewhere in terms of this relationship. But she's very much don't trust, verify. Good. In case you haven't watched any of my other videos, my primary job is to provide leadership. And there's 2 components to leadership, active and passive. And the problem I'm having with her is the active leadership. She resents active leadership big time. And she doesn't really even appreciate passive leadership, curiously. So, I mean, there's a chance that she grew up with people that had no idea what leadership is, that they treated her like a puppy or something, and didn't give her any real leadership. And so she has never had a relationship, an appropriate relationship with a human being. And apparently she didn't have much socialization with horses either, so the owner's current alpha mare had to spend some time with this horse, teaching it what it means to be a horse in social structure. So I'm just trying to give you an inkling that not all horses are the same, and you can't just show up with expectations. Well, you can show up with expectations of this is, a method or technique I'm going to use, and then immediately modify it for the individual standing in front of you. So I know she's going to have a problem with the fly spray. So it's one of the reasons I've got a halter and lead on her. Normally I want to fly spray the heck out of these guys at liberty until you don't need to hold them to fly spray. But I don't want to take 2 hours right now to do that. And one of the techniques I use to teach them about fly spraying, being fly spray better, is to hose them with a pretty good powered nozzle on the end of a hose, spray them. And I've done that once with her, and it worked pretty good. It helped her out a little bit on being fly sprayed. I'm going to go ahead and grab this. So, a bunch of things you can do. First, you want to rub the bottle on them. It's my understanding her primary problem is actually the sound. Okay, but one of the first things you want to do is make sure that they're not afraid of the bottle and everything and rub it on them. Usually physical contact can help them quite a bit. And the other technique you want to do is the old, you moved too late, you didn't avoid. So to get away from this fly spray, if they don't like it, they're going to move their feet and leave. But horses are conservative, which means they do things that work. If it doesn't work, they stop that behavior and they try something else. So if I spray her as I'm rubbing her and she's standing still, one spray like that, she moved now. So the question for you is, did her movement prevent me from spraying her? No. She moved after the fact. She does have very strong feelings about it, though. So now she knows that this bottle is going to spray her, so she's going to be a little antsier about it. You can see where her head is. She wants to leave. But I'm going to go ahead and rub it all over her. She's licking and chewing. And while I'm back here, I'm going to spray her again. Again, her movement is too late. So cool thing about horses, since her movement is too late, a smart horse, and of course we don't know what her IQ is, but a smart horse would say moving is too late. And they're just not going to move anymore because it doesn't work. Now they might look for another strategy. Right there I got a spray in and she didn't move at all. Make sure I go under her belly like this. While I'm down here, I sprayed her groin. I'm going to go down her leg. This fly spray bottle sucks. Okay, I sprayed her ears. I'm not going to spray her while she's moving. And of course, she might learn, if I keep moving, he's not going to spray me. So you have to keep adapting your strategies for the horse in front of you. And of course, eventually, I'd like to be able to have her stand still without being physically restrained. So if you want a good read, pick up any of Mark Rashid's books. He's a great author. He's a great horse trainer. He's got a book named Horses Never Lie. And it is partially true, but it's true if you finish the sentence. And the sentence ought to be, horses at liberty never lie. They tell you how they feel with their feet. But if you have a halter or bridle on them, they know they're physically restrained. If you're physically restrained, you lie all the time. She's lying to me right now because she's being physically restrained and knows it. If I took this off, I wouldn't even be able to get close to her with this fly spray bottle. I'm not going to do that because I might not be able to get close to her at all, not just with the fly spray bottle. I don't want it to take me an hour to catch this horse in this round pen again, which is very unusual for a horse. Usually I can catch a horse in an open field in 10 minutes if they don't want to be caught. Okay, so you can see I'm doing the same thing on this side. Get a spray in. That wasn't a very bad movement, just a little movement. That time she almost didn't move at all. Good, 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 good. So that's how we get her done. And over time, she's going to stop moving when she gets fly sprayed. Question is, I say over time. Well, how many times is it going to take? Depends on the individual horse. There's a lick and chew. So that gave her a lot of stress and anxiety, although it shouldn't. But it doesn't matter. Again, stress and anxiety is in the eyes of the experiencer. We all have our different perspectives and different things we feel about. She doesn't know. She has a choice in how she feels. That's something I want to teach her, is that how you feel is a choice. A lot of people don't know that. Trying to get your face some fly spray on it, dear. Trying to take care of you. Okay, let's throw this over your back. That'll be good enough for now. So you can see when I threw that over her back, she had a little bit of a response to it on that offside. Shouldn't be. I've thrown that over her quite a few times. She usually doesn't have a response, so that's telling me that this whole fly spray thing build up her emotional jar a bit. And just that flicking of that light over there makes that emotional jar overflow. Good job. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and tack her up, not at liberty. Because what I'm trying to suggest is I'm not going to be able to teach her anything in any reasonable amount of time at liberty. So I'm adjusting how I'm going to work with her by teaching her in hand. My focus needs to be to make sure that she's learning something as opposed to just giving me a behavior because she's helpless or physically restrained. So we'll see how that goes. So I did a lot of things with her that first session with a blanket, threw a blanket on her a lot. What I found with her, if you repeat something and you make it more and more assertive, like I want to throw a blanket at her really hard and have her not respond and not care. I'd like to be able to throw a tarp over her and have her not care, or a blanket or whatever. But what I found is when you add more energy to what you're doing with her, you put any energy into it at all, she's sensitive to the energy, hypersensitive to the energy. The worst thing you can do is probably jumping jacks with her. If I start doing jumping jacks, she's going to go out of her mind and panic and run around like crazy. So what I'm going to try and do is not put a lot of energy in this and just get her done. Like usually I want to throw this saddle pad at her 500 times until she doesn't care, and I could do it without this on. But that's not how she works. So instead, I'm going to do it once. And I'll throw the saddle on once. I'm going to put a girth on it once. And I'm going to let her be physically restrained. Because it seems like, to me, this horse can think better in hand than at liberty. So, yeah, I know. So that was more, and normally, I got to adjust what I'm thinking. Normally, I throw the saddle at the horse. I teach them, I'm going to stand next to you, I'm going to throw this Western saddle at your back. Well, usually my Western saddle weighs 55 pounds-ish, but I got a Wintec here today, and it weighs about half that. I deliberately got a Wintec because instead of throwing this on her back, I'm going to place it on her back. Because I know throwing it at her back is a problem for her. So I'm going to place this on her back. And you can see her response to this. And if she were in hand, if she weren't in hand, she'd be gone. And frankly, she acts like a horse with Lyme disease, but I know she's been tested and does not have Lyme disease. But I can already tell that when I go to put this girth on and let go of her, she's going to blow. Because I can feel her emotions now. So, I don't really want her to dump my saddle a billion times. And I normally don't walk around a horse with just the saddle on, because they're going to dump the saddle. And I don't want them to learn, if I take off, I can lose that thing on my back. Because eventually that thing's going to be a human being. And of course, if we just stand here and don't move at all, her nerve endings are going to, well, her nerves won't, but her brain will adjust, accommodate, kind of like if you put a hat on, you don't feel the hat after a while. You don't even feel it's there, but as soon as you move it, oh, there it is. So if we just stand here, the sensation of that saddle is going to disappear to her. And then when she goes to move, it's going to remind her it's there and she's going to jump. But first, I want her to get rid of all of her anxiety. The saddle on her back is causing her anxiety. Everything causes her anxiety. There she goes, lick and chew. So I need her. Normally, to desensitize a horse, you repeat something continuously to show the horse, hey, you might not like what you hear or what you see, but it doesn't hurt you. Let me do this. It's not a big deal. It doesn't hurt you at all. Okay, well, she doesn't work that way because she can't think. When you're doing it, she's not learning because her emotions are so high, she's not thinking. So I'm going to go up here and stimulate her nerves and her brain again. There you go. And now that you can see where her head went, her emotions came way up. And when I quit, her emotions are starting to drop. So I'm going to bring her head back down and help her get rid of her anxiety. I want to teach her this is nothing you have to be anxious about. And that's normally, like I said, we usually do that by repeating things over and over again until they habituate to it and they just accept it and go, well, that's not hurting me, so it's no big deal. And in the case of a saddle with a girth tight around their belly, it's not hurting you, but it's a sensation you're not used to. And she takes new things personally. And they scare the bejesus out of her. Even if it's not physically harming her, she takes it as emotional discomfort. Go ahead. I don't mind if you look at that. Go ahead. I know you looked at it on the other side. So I want her to get comfortable. And like I said, normally I don't go through this with a horse. I put the saddle on, I put the girth on, we get her done. That's not a problem. But I prepared them for it first. I can't prepare this horse in the same way. I mean, I could take a bareback pad. I could make smaller steps for her. That's not a bad idea. If this doesn't work, if I can't get her to accept the saddle doing it the way I am, I'll slow things down and break them into smaller steps. I'll go get a bareback pad or even just a surcingle, put it around her and let her carry a surcingle around till she accepts me putting that on and off and doesn't care about the pressure around her midsection. You know, there's a lot of ways to do things. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and let her walk and feel that move on her back. And I just noticed I have a square saddle, but I have a saddle pad designed not for a square saddle. So probably be a good idea. Yeah, I'm not going to care about that. And I just realized I got the wrong aft cinch. For this saddle uses a different one than the long one I've got hanging up there. That's okay. We'll sort all that out. So I'm letting her investigate this stuff. Come on. Come on. I got to be careful. I don't really want to be staying in front of this horse while I'm leading it around, because if she blows up, she's going to launch herself forward first, probably, without any brain, and she'll run right over you. Good. Good. So her ears are cooking left and right. She's not overly emotional. She's feeling pretty good about this. So I think it's time. I mean, I know I haven't moved her that much, but you can see how she's doing. She's investigating and she's not overly emotional. She's adapted to it or accommodated to it. So it's time to put the girth on. Normally I might not show every little thing to a horse, but she's teaching me that it's more helpful for her if I do that. So I can feel every little thing I do causes her a little jump inside, causes her to tense up and do a little jerk. Every little movement of the stirrup and the tack, every little thing is causing her anxiety, and you can see her head went up. So I need to teach her and help her not be so emotional. So every time I see her emotions come up, I need to bring her emotions. There's a lick and chew. I need to let her anxiety out of her because I want her to learn from this. If you're full of anxiety and somebody's trying to teach you something, you're barely going to learn anything, if at all. So we got to get the anxiety out of the classroom and provide the environment for the best learning. There we go. That's starting to feel good. Now, of course, as soon as I go up there, the anxiety might come back. So we're going to have to repeat this a lot of times. That's all. That's all there is. Repeat. How many times? Completely up to the individual horse. I think I said that already. You got to give the horse. I think it was Buck Brannaman that said, actually, he's not the only one. I know a bunch of trainers. I know John Lyons said it. And what they said is, you might go out and go to teach your horse something today, and they learn it. And they move throughout that session, and by the end of the session, they're doing pretty good, and you're pretty happy. Tomorrow, you go and pick up that horse, and you think, oh, I'm going to start out where we finished yesterday. You would think. But what you find is, nope, you end up starting the same place you did the day before. It's not important where they start each day. It's where they end up at the end of the session. That during that session, they learn something. And then you just repeat that. If 100 days in a row, that horse starts out not remembering, and I'm not going to say not remembering because they remember, it's an emotional thing. They have to start out the same place every day for 100 days. Keep going, because on the 103rd day, everything might change. And all of a sudden, they got it. Now, if you got to do 103 days for everything you teach them, it's going to take a while to teach that horse something. There's another lick and chew. And of course, the trouble is, if you're paying a horse trainer by the month or something like that, and it takes them 103 days to teach him every little thing, well, you're going to pay a lot to get that horse going. But if you want to ride that horse, that's what you got to do. So this is an interesting situation right here, because being in hand, I'm really close to this horse and have it in hand, and if she blows up, it's not going to be a lot of fun. So I have to manage her and myself and make sure I'm safe. The human has to stay safe. I shouldn't get hurt. I don't want her to get hurt, and she needs to be more calm at the end of the training. And you can see how her response is. So I'm going to go ahead and take a shorter grip on this lead line. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to tighten up and loosen the cinch. With my hand, I'm just putting pressure on her midsection, and I'm going to let go. And you can see where her head is, and she's a little rigid. I'm going to put pressure on, and I'm going to let go. But I'm going to drop her head when the pressure's off. And let her lose that emotion. And there's a lick and chew. You can see the cinch is hanging down. Okay. And you can see the head keeps popping up. If it'll stay down here, she'll show me I can start to auto-regulate my own emotions. If she'll hold her head down. When it pops up, she's saying, I can't be calm right now. Okay, so that's perfect. So, and she looked back. I want to let her look back, so I'm going to go ahead and do that again. You're okay. I'm going to drop her head again. And I'm just going to highlight that the way I do things, I don't even want to use the word training. I want to use the word teaching. I'm trying to teach a horse how to be calm and thoughtful in doing its job, which is accepting a saddle and accepting a rider and asking the rider what they would like them to do for them today. Okay? If I jump on a horse and it starts bucking like crazy, there's no training, no teaching there. That's raw emotion, defensiveness. It's defending itself from the human on its back, and that's not a good situation, in my view. It's one way to do things. There's a lot of ways to do things, but There we go. So I'm fairly confident I can tighten this up now. I'm pulling up pretty tight, and that I can get this on her without her blowing up before I can buckle it. Because the worst thing that could happen is she starts to buck before I got this saddle on here very good. And as she bucks, it rolls upside down and it's in her belly. And in that case, good luck. You have just done a good job of ruining that horse and your saddle. Your saddle is going to be trashed. Your horse, you're gonna have a hell of a time trying to get a saddle on that horse. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm gonna go ahead and, I know her head's up right now. I'm gonna go ahead and go for attaching this. Normally I would have let her go, but I haven't buckled that. I pulled the leather pretty good. I need her to chill. But like I said, the worst thing that could happen is that saddle rolls. I do not want her blowing up and bucking. I want to shut her down like we just did. I want to teach her you don't have to feel this way. You don't have to defend yourself. Good. So she's trying to look back at the saddle and see what's going on. I'm going to go ahead and loosen the girth to reward her for quitting. I'm going to loosen it, take it off completely in case she starts back up again. So the saddle, I really don't want her to move and have the saddle come off, but I want to give her a complete reward so she can learn from what just happened. What just happened is when she quit, it quit. The saddle quit when she quit. Now, I gotta get all that anxiety out of her, lick and chew, so she can, and when does a horse learn? When you quit. This is when the learning's taking place. When she was rigid, wanting to blow up, no learning happening there. Behavior happens, but that doesn't mean there's learning to have continuous desirable behavior. So this is when she's learning. You gotta quit. So she's thinking about other things. She's almost stopped thinking about the whole saddle because there's no stimulus to her. She's very in the moment kind of girl. Like, the learning's over, which is a little weird for me. Well, maybe there's some still going on. She's still looking at the saddle. I'm going to go ahead and bring this, let it go up a little bit and let her walk forward with no girth restraining her belly. There we go. That'll work. There you go. And you can see how concerned she is. She's pretty concerned. So I need to get rid of that concern. Get rid of those emotions. I would like, there's more licking and chewing. I would like her to think about this and go, what the hell is it? Why is it on me? Does it have a purpose? It doesn't hurt me. I wonder why you put that thing on me. They can't predict the future. They have no idea where we're going with this. In her world, why would a human, the apex predator, ever get on my back, the apex prey animal, and not just eat me? Why would the apex predator want to sit on my back and have me carry them around? They can't imagine that. Of course, that's why when I first get on a horse, the first thing I do is wiggle and get off the horse. Because they might think, oh my God, I have to live the rest of my life with this human on my back? They don't know you're going to get off. Good. Good. So this is the passive leadership. So what I'm doing today is I usually try and mix active and passive leadership 50-50. And what I've discovered, what I'm thinking about her, I was actually going to go really heavy on active leadership. And something in my gut said, no, try the opposite first. So I'm doing the opposite, and that is really heavy on the passive leadership. I'll add, as time goes on, more active leadership. The only active leadership I'm doing now is when she goes insane, I'm going to yell at her and jump and pull and do all kinds of things to try to get her attention out of her own head and into my head again, and turn to me and look at me and go, oh crap, I forgot myself. Yes, you did. So most of the time I'm trying to be really heavy on the passive leadership. And we'll see how she does with me just pulling this up like this. That's a little better. Yep. Good. Okay, so now what I'm going to do now is tighten that girth back up again.